Ignore this. Machinewise, a humble company with humble beginnings. Starting off with one person, now they've recently grown to 6. Now Machinewise is one of the bigger manufacturers in the United States for balisongs, so it wouldn't be too surprising if you know about, say, the Prysma, the Prysma Pro, the Slift Te, the Opus, the Serif, the fifT. Now when I say humble beginnings, I mean it started as a one-man shop deylan who had a smaller mill that had none of the features that his current stuff has. He had to change the bits by hand and he had to sit there and wait. If you've seen Will Hirsch's video, you would know about this. And from humble beginnings comes humble first products. I don't have any of them. Now of course I don't have the very first thing that he made. Deylan still has his very first knife. If you've seen the Will Hirsch video, you would know that. You've seen it. Obviously, even if it's not the best thing that he's made, I'm sure it holds a lot of sentimental value, so of course he would keep it. And a Delta 4 is extremely hard to find. I can't find one. I'm hoping to find one soon. But now we can get onto something that's a little bit easier to find. Chunky. This is the Delta fifT. His very first production knife that was made on that old mill that he used. These were the actual thing that was used in production. The Delta 4, technically not a production thing. While they were sold, they were more of a prototype to becoming this. This is grade 5 titanium, and I don't know what the steel is. Deylan, if you're watching, please tell me I don't know any better about what it is. So these guys are a little bit interesting. This is supposed to be Deylan's attempt at a slimmer balisong. At least compared to the Delta 4, I have heard that this feels significantly slimmer. And also, despite the fact that it's very much chunky, it's a fun flipper. And it flips surprisingly well for its weird dimensions. It's got this cool face jimping that wraps all the way around actually. These really, really wide channels, and that's probably what keeps it very light despite the size. And this really cool blade that has cutouts on the flats, both sides. It's symmetric. More people should do that. It's a really cool feature, and not enough people do cutouts on the blades. So another neat thing about this balisong is that it was originally on bearings. This one, however, is on bushings. I don't have a bearing one to show off, unfortunately, but this one is on bushings. And unfortunately, it has the weirdest way to be tuned. I believe it's called floating washers. So you have to sand the washers instead of an actual bushing inside of there. And it's really, really awkward. But hey, it works, I guess? And of course we know that eventually Deylan moved on to something a little bit more standard. This was discontinued, and well, that just lives on in the history. And supposedly, I've heard legend that every time the fifT is mentioned, you can hear in the background, if you really listen carefully, the distant cry of Deylan in agony. So something cool that Deylan decided to do, instead of just outright discontinuing his very first staple initial project, he did Slift Te. Now there was a little bit of overlap between when these fifTs and the maryns were being produced together, but of course Deylan wanted to stop this thing because it wasn't fitting to his modern standards anymore. So of course, why not change it? He made the Slift Te in a day, high on caffeine probably, sleep deprived, and he got around using the maryn platform. That's something that's used today. Ooh! Now I don't know about you, but I think it's really cool that rather than just completely canning his very first design, he decided to iterate on it. He made something from this into something that fits his current machining and design standards. You can see some of the details that have even kind of lineaged on from the old to the new. Like this face jimping got to stay, the chamfers on the edges of the handles, the same general shape of it. It's got the 3 hole cutouts, and if you look at the blades, the bevel mill lines got to stay between these 2 iterations, which I personally am a huge fan of. The holes, unfortunately, got kaputted, which is unfortunate, but you know, it's okay, I guess. Also, the Slift Te has speed channels. Now, as well as being slimmer to fit modern Machinewise standards of design and construction, it's also got regular bushings inside of it now. Ones that you actually sand into the right thickness, and it works how we expect it. Unlike you, you're a little bit strange, but I still love you. The handles are grade 5 titanium, the blade is AEBL steel, although there is a small run of them that was S35VN apparently. I was not there for the drop, but apparently that was the material that was used. Not all of them have the satin face either, by the way. This is a little bit different. I believe that these were only a few that were done like this. Most of them have this kind of a matte finish, like they were just etched for a long time in some sort of a stripping agent for anodizations. And then it got discontinued. It got discontinued. Though in a way, it was never really discontinued so much as it was never really in production. There were a couple at Blade Show West 2021, and there were 2 small drops of them. In total, there's probably less than 50, even more so less than 50 now that people have kind of taken them apart, parted them out, things like that, and they've just kind of scattered. So it's very hard to find these just in general, unfortunately. But they are out there. There's a good handful of them. It's just not exactly the easiest thing to find, which is unfortunate because in my personal opinion, while I'm more of a collector, this thing really fits my preferences for flipping. I'm so sad that these things were discontinued. I would have bought another one. So then these guys kind of go into a hiatus hell where they're kind of discontinued, but also not exactly. They were being put on hiatus because there was another iteration that was going to be coming out about them. That took about a year, maybe a little bit longer, because the Slift Te V2, that's something that exists now. I'm sure all of you know about it who know about Machinewise, because it's a very hot item that a lot of people want. Now, the Slift Te V2 didn't come out until 2023 in early January, so it was probably over a year since this thing came out between this and the next iteration, which, by the way, modern Slift Te coming up! This is the most modern iteration of the fifT lineage, the Slift Te V2. This one is extra modern because it's got different little features on it that were not included on the very first drops of these guys. These guys had some little improvements that were changed around March, I want to say, of 2023. On these little chamfers of the handles, it's got this mill texture that was added, and on the blade, again, ignore this, I'm testing things that don't require taping a blade. So the bevel of the most modern iteration of these blades is smooth. It no longer has mill lines, as you can see. It's got 7 million lines of code for the CNC to make it this smooth. It's also stonewashed to make it even more smooth. I'll be honest, I kind of missed the mill lines. I can't lie about that. Also, you can tell it's a little bit newer because it's got a lasered logo. That was a new thing as of last year in spring, summer-ish, kind of. And also on the back, not only is it lasered S35VN, which these are now S35 by the way, all of the blades from Machinewise are, but also it's serialized. This one's 42, like a Benchmade 42. Now you may be wondering, oh, what do the early V2 blades look like if I want to know the difference between this one, the V1, and the V2s that were early? Well, you're in luck. I have one. Now, it's on an Opus, but this is a Slift Te V2 blade. That's just the benefit of the Maryn platform, which most all of Machinewise's modern stuff is on. The original serifs are the only ones that are not, but everything else is on the Maryn platform, so you can interchange handles with the blades really easily. But you can tell that this is a V2, not just because it's got denser mill lines on it, but also it says S35VN. These were all S35VN. These were not. So these are marked, and that's how you know the difference. Now I know you want a sound test, but hold on to your corn. I got it for you. Don't you worry. Alright, you animals, which one was your favorite? Mine was 2. So that's the fifT lineage as we have it so far. Will there be more iterations? I don't know. Ask Deylan. Or his team. And if none of them have an answer, I guess we'll just have to see what happens in the future. Anyways, that's it. Thank you for watching, and I still have no outro.